Good afternoon, and welcome to Expose Yourself to Art, a show that explores the creative process by inviting artists to join us in a chat about their life and their art. My name is David Schrader, and with me as always is my co-host, Linda Scheller. Hi, Linda. Good
Hi,
to see
David.
you, as usual.
Nice to see you.
And congratulations. I understand you were just installed on the board of the Arts Council for Stanislaus County.
Yes, thank you so much. It's such an honor. I'm thrilled to be able to serve.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good organization. It seemed like a good group of people.
I
So
agree.
anyway, to get right on with the show, we have a, to me, very interesting special person today, Nathan Stark. He is an opera singer, and he is from locally Hughson, California. Went on from Hughson to the big stages around the world. Let me just read a brief introduction here. Nathan Stark is praised by the Washington Post as having a voice of unearthly power, the Houston Press as being a blow-away singer, and the San Jose Mercury News as a natural comic opera, award-winning bass baritone. Nathan Stark has performed on opera concert and recital stages throughout the United States, Europe, and China. And today, coming to us from where? Hughson or somewhere in Stanislaus County. He's with us today. Let's give him a grand entrance and bring him on by playing a video of one of his performances. So let's start there. So can we cue up video? Here we go.
Whiskey on the table, you're leading me astray. Over hill and mountain and down to Barricade. You're sweet, you're stronger, decent, or you're smoky, or unpaid. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling drunk soul. Oh, now we are on the march, and off to Portugal and Spain. The pipes are blaring, banners flying, the devils all will come tonight. Long, very well. With me, Timori-I, da-doodly-dum-ba. With me, Timori-I, da-doodly. Me right on to the laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar. Whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hill and mountain and down in Mary Kay. You're sweet as strong, kicks and tell, you're spunkier than tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling drunk or soul. The French are fighting boldly, and dying hot and coldly. Gives every man a flask of powder, his stomach on his shoulder. Love very well. With me a Timori-I, da-doodly-dum-ba. With me a Timori-I, da-doodly. Me right side to the laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar, and the whiskey. You're leading me astray, oh, hill and mountain and down to Mary Kay. Oh, you're strong and decent, you're spunkier than tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling drunk soul. Said the mother, do not wrong me, don't take my daughter from me. For if you do, I will torment you, and after you, the ghost will haunt you. Love very well. With me, Timori-I, da-doodly-dum-ba. With me, Timori-I, da-doodly. Me rights on to the laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Well, come on in, Nathan. Oh.
Lost the beard.
Well, tell us about that. I mean, that portrays what I know about you. Great voice and great comic acting ability.
Well, thank you. That was actually done during the height of the pandemic at Opera San Jose, when none of us were working live on stage any longer because of the pandemic. And the opera company in San Jose had asked me to construct and write a show that they could film. So we brought in a actual film crew. I wrote a script. I collaborated with my artists in San Jose, and we wrote this show called The Parting Glass. And it was drinking songs from around the world. And it was about this barkeep who had this bar and trying to, keep his business alive during the pandemic. And all of these interesting characters came in with drinking songs, and that's how the show started, with "Whiskey You're the Devil," which is a old Irish drinking song.
Old Irish was, one of the places I saw you here in town was when you did this thing for Opera Modesto. I think it was called Hip Opera or something like that. And
Yeah,
that was the songs that you sat in an empty audience and sang this song. Was that from that show? From that?
that was one of the songs. That was "The Parting Glass," which is a Scottish Irish drinking song that's usually performed at the end of the evening at the pub, when it's just kind of letting people know that we're leaving, and it's, we're wrapping things up. And I thought that was kind of a last minute entry for that program that we did. The hip hop and opera, ILO and hip hop, I think was what the concert was called. And Roy Stevens, the director of Opera Modesto, and I thought that would be a great entry for that.
Yeah. I remember it was very touching because you were sitting in an empty theater singing about the pandemic. I mean, it's like,
well, I mean, it's it's a very unfortunate situation when you are, when you go into these theaters and they're empty. And for so long, for the last 2 years, so many of those theaters have been empty. And more than that, a lot of our people who are regulars at opera companies weren't with us because of, deaths and, terrible circumstances surrounding that pandemic.
well, let's get back and start at the beginning. When I brought you on, I said, he's from Hughson. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's a story from Hughson to the opera stages of the world. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born and raised in Hughson, California. I was third generation, maybe fourth generation to grow up in Hughson. I went to the same high school that my grandparents met and fell in love, and then my parents met and fell in love. And I had the privilege of having both sides of my family live with only about a mile away from me. So yeah, I grew up in a town of about 3,200 people, farm town. And, even though I've gone on and lived and worked in bigger cities, and, some of the biggest in the world, I always consider myself a small town guy at heart. And, I thought Modesto, going from Hughson to Modesto to GIM JC, was going to be a big, adventure. The big city to me was Modesto for so long. And then San Francisco was a different world,
Did you grow up in a musical family?
Not necessarily. I think I was certainly the first to go off and study music in my family on both sides. But I did come from a family of artists. I mean, I have an aunt who is an author, a published author, and another aunt who is a dancer and trained as a dancer and taught as a dancer and still in the arts. But I was the singer, and I'm sure I've got some relatives out there that can sing. They just don't want to.
how did you discover that you were a singer, that you had this talent or capacity?
Well, in high school, I I originally wanted to become a high school English teacher is what the plan was for me after high school. And I always enjoyed even, I was always involved in so many different subjects, and I'm very involved in student council. I played football, I played track. I tried to do everything in high school. But the one place I felt the most comfortable in was the theater at Hughson High School. And my freshman year, I remember they had just built a brand new auditorium theater. And I can still remember like the smell of the paint. It was so brand new. And I just remember feeling like so comfortable around not only the theater, but the people in the theater and the types of artists that were in the theater, just the artsy types of people. And when I graduated from high school, I went to MJC, still with this idea that I wanted to become a school teacher. But I was taking theater classes, and I was taking, a couple of beginning voice lesson classes. And I think I always secretly knew that I was going to be drawn to the theater and the stage, even though I was trying to fight it a little bit. But I was encouraged by colleagues to audition for the Modesto Junior College Spring Musical, which they were doing Brigadoon.
Ah.
And you had to come in and sing a song for your audition. And I didn't know anything about music. I barely knew where middle C was on the piano. So I picked one of the easiest musical theater songs for my voice type, which is a bass baritone, which is Some Enchanted Evening from South Pacific. It's in C major. It's very easy. And I sang that for Professor Jim Johnson and Dr. Lewis Woodward, who are these big figures in the local music and theater scenes back then. Mm-hmm. And Jim still is. And I remember Dr. Woodward came up afterwards and said, "Could you meet me in my office tomorrow morning? I want to talk to you." And Dr. Woodward, for people who knew him in this area, he was like the Obi-Wan Kenobi for a lot of opera singers. He was the gatekeeper for a lot of singers, and it was like either him or Buck Townsend. These two figures in opera in the local area were the people. And so if they told you they wanted to meet you, you went. And it was truly Dr. Woodward who encouraged me and became my first mentor and introduced me to this world called opera. And this was his last year teaching at MJC, and he became my voice teacher and my mentor. And we started from, this is a note. This is where middle C is. And even after he retired, he still was my mentor for the rest of his life, and he became a very good friend and got me out of AC and on to the next chapter.
Yeah, the beginning of your story sounds a little bit like Roy Stevens, who's now directing Opera Modesto.
Yeah.
He was talking about getting into a musical show at, it was with Paul Tischer's organization.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know how to sing either. And the story he likes to tell is that he really didn't know how to sing, to the degree that at the end of the show, they gave out scholarships, and they gave him one with the understanding that he would spend the money on voice lessons if he wanted to come back. And that's, it sounded like what you said. You weren't even sure where middle C was.
Right. No, I mean, the Dr. Woodward asked me, I remember in that meeting, he said, and he had this old, this very thick Texan accent. He's like, "Son," he goes, "what's your major?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a liberal studies major." He's like, "I don't think you need to be a liberal studies major. I think you need to be a voice major." he was about my height, which is about 6'3". So he looked you right in the eye, and you listened. But I wasn't able to. I was cast in Brigadoon that year and wasn't able to finish that production because of 2 weeks before opening night of Brigadoon, I was involved in a terrible, terrible car accident
Oh,
that put me in a coma for a week and on life support for a week, and it was a
oh,
big deal. And they went on. Actually, Larry Zabel, who is another figure of the local arts scene, had to take over for me in that show. And but Jim Johnson and Dr. Woodward continued to be, they came to the hospital a lot. And but I think in that whole transition of trying to get out of that car accident and recover from that car accident, I think after I made a full recovery, I realized, how sensitive time is for all of us. And if I love the arts, then I'm going to do the arts, because, let's not do something that you're just sort of, whatever about. If you have a passion, go for it, and the stage is where I wanted to go.
So where did you go from MJC? What was the next step?
Yeah, after MJC, I auditioned for a couple of colleges, and actually with Dr. Woodward's help and Shirley Woodward, his wife, they kind of prepped me, along with Sherry Llewellyn, who became my teacher at MJC. The three of them helped me prepare for the next journey, and then I ended up getting a big scholarship to attend California State University of Long Beach. And they had one of the only opera institutes within a university at that time. And moved to Long Beach and started to study with a woman by the name of Shigemi Matsumoto. And she had this huge, career, 25-year career. She had done recordings with Pavarotti, had traveled the world, and she became my new mentor, along with her husband, who was a opera manager in his career. And so I had Shigemi teaching me about what it was like to be an actual opera singer and how to behave professionally as an opera singer. And then I had her husband, who was a manager, who was teaching me about the business side and business aspect of how to, think like a business person as well as an artist. So Shigemi and Marty really groomed me for the next couple of years while I was studying in Long Beach. But here's a funny story. So when I moved from Hughson to Long Beach, I thought everybody in Long Beach wore Hawaiian shirts. I thought it was this beach city. So I made this, and I got this huge collection of Hawaiian shirts. And I would wear these Hawaiian shirts, and then I realized, after a month, I'm the only one wearing Hawaiian shirts. But that's kind of how naive I was, coming from Hughson, California. Yeah. And so then it became sort of my signature in the music conservatory there in Long Beach, was wearing Hawaiian shirts. So it just became my thing, But
yeah, you said something though that again triggered a thought in me. Our question: your mentor, you said she gave you hints about how to be an opera singer. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Sure. Shigemi taught me how to always be one step ahead of what people's expectations were, to always be conscious of how you present yourself professionally. And that is something that not all conservatories, I think, instill in a lot of students. And I think because Shigemi was a singer and had lived this crazy life that so many singers have to, endure, she was able to really give me this type of advice from a personal place too. Everything from the social aspect of how to go in and speak to a maestro, or how do you speak to an accompanist, or how do you speak to some of your colleagues, or how to avoid certain subjects if they're brought up in the rehearsal process, that have nothing to do with music. Shigemi is one of the classiest people I know on this planet, and I even though I don't study with her any longer, she is like family to me now. She and her husband. So anytime I need some advice on how to handle a situation, she's one of these people that is full of great wisdom.
Yeah. So what are you supposed to avoid in terms of conversations?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. But anything to do with relationships or sex or politics or religion, it's. I often tell people who ask my advice on how to navigate through these things is play a little aloof. Even if you know exactly what's going on, play aloof. Unless you are directly asked a question, skip around when it comes to subjects that are relating to sex or your religion or your political affiliations. Because of the recent politics of the last couple of years, it's been a little bit challenging, especially in the with social media as well. We have to, as artists, we have to be sometimes a little careful who we're dealing with, because you're dealing with a lot of different personalities and you don't want to offend anybody. And so you have to be a politician yourself sometimes, and I remember somebody asking me, it was in Virginia, and at that time I think it was Obama was running against Mitt Romney, I think it was, and this old judge from Smithville, Virginia, looked at me and after a show and said, "Son, what is your political affiliation?"
Oh, wow.
Just like direct at a reception. And I was just like, I don't follow politics, but hey, do you love Rigoletto?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
Your acting doesn't stop as an artist, as a singer, as a musical theater artist. It doesn't stop when the curtain comes down. It stops
Right.
when you're in your hotel room or when you're back home and the door is closed. That's when it stops.
Yeah. No, it's a very interesting subject and topic. That is something that's very often lacking in artists. I mean, you got the business advice, you got the how do you handle yourself advice. I mean, all very important for success in the real world.
It also comes from we have a lot of students who are in music conservatories who are getting advice from, I'm going to say it, getting advice from instructors who have never lived that life, and they don't really know what they're talking about sometimes. And so I think what's missing a lot of the time is bringing in seasoned professionals, artists who've lived this lifestyle, to talk about finances, to talk about taxes as an opera singer, talking about investment, talking about managers and how to deal with managers and PR, and the list goes on. There's a lot of aspects to being a singer that people aren't aware of, that it goes well beyond just the realm of knowing how to sing and how to act and how to be on stage. There's a whole aspect of being a business person that I think, especially now with the pandemic, has made people realize I have to think like a business person. And being a star and having the spotlight and all this is great if it comes, but there is something to be said about maintaining a career. And I think being able to maintain a career, you have to be a business person or think like a business person. And if you don't think like a business person, then you need to find the people around you who are business-minded people and take their advice.
Right. Well, how long have you been doing this at this point? your professional career?
Well, let's see. It's about almost 20 years of performing, maybe a little more than that. But I would say my career really started to take off in like 29, 30. That's when things really started to get to a place where I didn't have to have a side hustle or a side job. Um, and certainly by 30, things were going, and by 35, I made my Met debut, and then everything, after that started to kind of fall in place. Having managers, um, was the next step up, and I learned a lot through some of the managers that I've had, and some of the other voice teachers that I've had. I ended up going to, after Long Beach, I ended up going to the conservatory in Cincinnati, Ohio, and spent 2 years doing a postgraduate degree in opera, and was able to study with another bass baritone by the name of Ken Shaw, who's a very prominent teacher in the Ohio region. And he was the first like bass baritone I'd ever studied with. And so I learned a whole nother aspect of what it is to study with someone of the same voice type as you, which I think every singer should invest some time in finding. Sopranos have it lucky because there's lots of soprano teachers, but if you're a bass, you have a harder journey, a harder hunt to find a bass teacher.
Uh-huh. So being a bass baritone, the parts you get in operas you're not a leading man.
No.
Like character, more character parts.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some lead roles for bass baritones.
Right.
But let's talk about that, and let's take a look at some of the great characters you've created. Because I've seen the pictures. They're absolutely.
Oh yeah. Well, but you're right though. Like most of my career, I would say 95% of my career, I've been a supporting role. I've been a what I call a filler role. If this was a football game, if you're a football fan, I'm a lineman. The linemen very, very seldomly ever get any kind of praise, individually. The quarterbacks and receivers always get the fame, but as a supporting role, I'm always a father, or I'm always the comedy relief on the side, and I love that. I actually love being a supporting character because nobody gets tired of you, and you don't have to. Well, you don't have to really carry the weight of the entire show with you either. And you can take your scenes that you have and you can steal the scene for that moment and then walk off. So I love the supporting role characters.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at several of them. You gave us a bunch of pictures, so let's see what we've got here.
Oh, yes. So This is Beethoven's Fidelio. This was a production at Cincinnati Opera. And the woman whom I'm singing with right there is Christine Gerke, who is currently the Wagnerian soprano, dramatic soprano of our time. She's a lovely human being. I love Christine. She was also a part of my Met debut in Die Frau ohne Schatten at the Met.
And so what's your character here? I'm sorry.
So the character of Rocco, he is the jailer in the opera. He's actually the leading bass. So there was that 5% that I was talking about where I don't play a leading character. Here I did. This is this aria that I'm singing is about telling Fidelio, who is Christine's character. She's actually playing a pants role. She's disguised as a boy. And I'm telling her, or him, because I think it's a male, I'm telling him about relationships. And the most important thing about a relationship isn't always love and caring for your partner, but money. Having money is important.
Okay.
Funny aria.
All right. Next.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is a fun opera. This is also at Cincinnati Opera. This is La Calisto by Cavalli. It's a early music or Baroque opera written around the 1600s, and this is a half man, half goat character. Um, they're called centaurs, I think. I might not be saying that right, but this is the character of Silvano, and he plays the old half man, half goat character, kind of a crotchety guy, as you can see.
Well,
It's the first
oh,
time
I love
I've ever played a goat before.
I love that tattoo.
That's actually real. That was a poor decision I made as an undergrad. I was like, I'm gonna just tell everybody I'm a bass without
Oh,
saying a word.
a bass clef. There you go.
A good thing I didn't turn into a tenor. I'd have to change my tattoo.
And you grew horns for this.
I did, yes. It's a great costume, great wig.
Yeah. Next. There we go.
Oh yes. So this is a role I've done many, many times. Il Commendatore in Don Giovanni. And this the Commendatore has what I call like the bookend role. He starts in the very beginning. He fights Don Giovanni in a duel and loses. And at the very end of the opera, he comes back as a ghost or a stone statue and tells Don Giovanni he needs to, repent for all of his sins or he's going to be drugged to hell. And in an act of defiance, Don Giovanni refuses to repent for his sins, and the Commendatore drags him to hell as promised. So this is some really great makeup work done by the makeup and costume department at Virginia Opera.
Wow. Impressive.
Very impressive. And
So,
and the thing is we as artists, performing artists on stage, we get all the credit for this, and it's just like we don't do anything except sit in a chair, and these wonderful artists do all the work, and we get all the credit. So when you see a show, whether it be musical theater or opera, and you see these people looking so fantastic or wearing wonderful costumes, make sure you know that that's not the people you see up there. It's the people backstage.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was just going to make a comment about the so far just the few we've seen marvelous hairstyles compared to your own natural way of being.
Well, that's one of the best things I've ever done is just to go ahead and let nature kind of take its toll and shave my head, because for my career I mostly wear wigs anyway, so it works out perfectly. This is Escamillo, the Bullfighter in Bizet's Carmen, very popular opera, and this is one of the very rare times that I ever get the woman in an opera. But when I play Escamillo, Escamillo gets Carmen at the end. And this is an interesting story behind this this production. This was the first time I was ever introduced to what they call a dance belt. If you're a dancer or dancers, you know that men will wear these very tight, almost like a jock strap, to when they have to wear, the tights, and it's for modesty purposes. Use your imagination. I had to wear a dance belt because I was wearing something that was extremely tight, the pants, and so for modesty purposes, I had to wear one for the show, and it gave me a whole new appreciation for male dancers. I also joked that it helped me with my high notes for the role.
You look younger here.
That's all makeup. That is all makeup. Yeah, that had some good makeup crews on that one.
Okay.
And this is the King, obviously. This is a production called Cinderella that was written by a 12-year-old girl at the time named Alma Deutscher. And this was the North American premiere of her first opera that she wrote, that was produced by Opera San Jose and financed by the Packard Humanities Foundation from Hewlett Packard. And so we had this huge budget for costumes and sets. And yeah, all of these costumes were just so beautifully done and custom made for all of us. And I loved that cane that they gave me too. Yeah.
Wow. Yes. Oh,
Oh yeah, and this is from a production at Kentucky Opera. This is Basilio, Don Basilio in Barber of Seville, the scandalous music teacher. He's a little bit of a villain. I don't know if you could tell that from that expression. And that little strip in the very front, that's actually my hair. So I think that was the last of it before I took a buzzer to it. That's a fun, scandalous role.
yeah.
In all these stills, you just emanate the character so vividly, so perfectly.
Well, and a lot of the times these are, and a lot of opera singers do this in their dressing rooms. They will, take photos of their costumes and their makeup for archival purposes and just for fun. And I think it's important to take these photos now that we have great cell phones to do it, and to emanate the character, to show how you played that character.
I was going to ask something along the same line, or say something along the same line. Seeing all these characters, it's not just is it just the costumes and makeup? I mean, to me, this speaks to your ability as an actor to take on all these characters.
Well, I think that's a great question, David. I think that what I accredit a lot of this the stage work that I do is from my beginnings in theater and wanting to be an actor. And I always tell people I started in theater, then worked my way through theater to musical theater to opera. And so I carry that sort of what I've learned as an actor into opera. And there are a lot of singers today who are fabulous singers, better than I am, who are terrible actors. And it's because they only concentrated on singing. They didn't really look into or invest time into becoming a better actor. And it's changing. I think singers today are better actors in opera than they were, say, 30 years ago. And that's because I think people are realizing you have to be a double, sometimes even a triple threat, meaning you need to know how to sing, dance, and act. Ask our musical theater brethren and sister, and they got to do it all.
Yeah.
Opera singers don't nearly have to concentrate on all of those aspects as much as those musical theater artists. But
do you dance also then?
I always tell people I have 2 left feet. So if there is a show in which I'm doing that it requires us to dance, I let the dance instructor know immediately, you've got your work cut out for you with me. So, but usually I play the old man or something like that. Oh, speaking of which, this is the other Figaro. This is by Mozart, The Marriage of Figaro. This is Dr. Bartolo. He ends up being discovered as Figaro's father in that show. But this wig, though, this was at Opera Theater of St. Louis. And this wig that they gave me it started, the horns started to get bigger and bigger. So by the end of the last show, I looked like Lucifer. I had my wig just kept getting higher and higher. It looked like cotton candy or something.
Another great one. Another great wig.
Yeah, fantastic wig, fantastic costumes as well.
So,
oh yes. So this is again Opera San Jose. This is a production of Verdi's Il Trovatore. This is the role of Ferrando, and he's the older military captain of the guard. And yeah, this is one of my friends said, "You look like a character from Game of Thrones or something." And I was, "Oh, I like that show." But what's funny now is I play older characters, I need less and less makeup, you know. That's another really great wig too.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, so this is not from a rock concert or anything, but this was actually just last summer. This was Das Rheingold at Opera Santa Barbara down south, Wagner, and I played a giant, the giant Falstaff. And they had this concept of making us like 80s punk rock stars. So you can imagine how surprised I was when the costume and makeup people asked me, would I really, really shave my head like with a straight razor, because they were going to give me a mohawk. And we also had to wear these platform boots that gave us another 7 inches of height. So I was, really super tall, and I figured if I fell, then that was it. So we had to practice with those shoes.
Helped you with your high notes, though, right?
Yeah.
Bad joke.
And this was the last production I did. Again, this was at Opera San Jose. This is Henry Purcell's Dido and Aeneas. The role is originally supposed to be a sorceress, the protagonist, the bad guy. But for this production, they wanted a bass to sing the sorcerer, not a sorceress. So this was a fantastic concept. Visually, these were contact lenses. They were actually prescription, so I could actually see the maestro in the orchestra pit. But those contact lenses glowed in the theater, so when I would turn around and look out into the theater, the audience would just see these eyes. So it was a very effective concept and execution of some really good ideas.
That was terrifying.
Yeah, these are my minions. Some of these are dancers, and some of these are chorus members that are surrounding me as my minions of evil.
Jeez.
Great lighting too. That's another people behind the scenes. The lighting artists who were changing the lights to give certain types of moods. These people are often not given the credit that they so honestly deserve. They make us look great, and they really set the mood for these really powerful scenes, like this person did right here. Oh, that goes back to that's the Commendatore again. Telling Giovanni to repent for his sins. As you can see, he's coming back with the blood on his nightgown. This is where he was stabbed at the beginning of the opera. Good thing about this role is that you can go out in the first act, die, and then you go backstage and you can sit there. Heck, you could order a pizza if you want, until you have to come back at the end of the opera and drag you to hell. So, I always bring a good book when I'm doing this role.
Yeah.
Be a lot waiting. This was the Verdi Requiem. I've done so many Verdi Requiems. I can't tell you exactly where this was exactly. I think it was Greensville
Ah,
in South or North Carolina. I can't remember.
South Carolina.
Anyway, that's the Verdi Requiem is is uh, uh, is a concert that I've done more than any other show or opera. Uh, um, in fact, I don't have to use the music any longer when I do these concerts for this particular work.
Well, let's hear it. Let's listen to it now. This is a good place for it.
Oh, sure.
And we can come back and recover afterwards. So, as you said, it's different than your whiskey.
Yes, very different.
So, as soon as we get it queued up here, the Requiem, it's a perfect place for it.
And this is with Detroit, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
Okay.
Oh, bravo, bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a magnificent voice you have.
Get a,
What
Thank you.
power. That was beautiful.
Thank you. And when people ask me
Gorgeous.
what my favorite opera is, I say it's the Verdi Requiem, which is not technically an opera, but it's you need to be, it's about as taxing and tiring as and exhausting as doing a full-on opera. Yeah. Great music. I love it.
So what's that like, standing with that huge orchestra like that and singing? That just seems like it would be just a wonderful experience.
Oh, I mean, when you do a concert like the Verdi Requiem or like a Messiah or Beethoven 9, the thing is when you know a piece so well and you hear an ensemble who are that good, it makes such a difference, and it also makes you want to up your game and sing better. I mean, that's kind of silly to say. You should always sing good, well, but when you hear that type of orchestra, like the Boston Symphony Orchestra or the Detroit Symphony Orchestra or LA Symphony, there's almost no words for it. There's this life, this energy around you, and it's so balanced. And I'm all about the collaborative sort of artistic experience that we all, as artists, what we are trying to deliver to an audience. And there's just something magical and powerful about being able to collaborate with these brilliant artists and being all on the same page. I mean, pun intended, musically. And yeah, there's this piece that I'm doing, this Verdi Requiem. I'm doing it again in DC in April with some of those same vocalists, and looking forward. Same conductor, actually. So looking forward to that.
So when is that? You said April?
That's at the end of April in Washington, DC, and it's such a there's so much aggression in that in that particular aria. Then I feel like I'm going to take all this pent up aggression that I've had for the last 2 years of just waiting on the wings, waiting for my career to come back after COVID, that I'm going to sing extra passionately in April. Confutatis, indeed.
Well, yes. So, April, that's the next thing. I was going to say, what now? Where do you go?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting ready to actually do a concert or a fundraiser for Opera Modesto on March 19th. And that is a dinner fundraiser. There'll be, cuisine, wine, music. It's called An Evening in Paris. So it's going to be a very French theme. And I'll be doing some songs, some chansons, which is French art songs, some arias. And if people are interested, they can go to operamodesto.org, I believe.
Yes.
And check it out. Tickets are available. And that's the next thing I'm doing in March. And then in April, I'm doing a Verdi Requiem, followed by a Carmen and Helena Symphony in Montana. Isn't that awful? I think it's Montana. God, if I'm wrong, I apologize.
Who are you playing in Carmen this time?
I'm not playing the guy that has to wear the dance belt. I'm playing the supporting bass, Zuniga. So I'm happy about that.
By the way, just to go back a minute, this fundraiser you're doing for Opera Modesto,
Yes,
it's going to be at Mislin Gallery, as you can see in our background here.
that's correct.
That's where this is originating from, and it'll be there. So I'll be there for sure.
Fantastic. Well, what are we going to sing, David? Later, give me the memo.
I think that's past me already. It's been a long time. Things happen to your voice as you get older. So
yeah.
what an excuse you come up with to not embarrass myself. Yeah, nothing like that. So I'll bring my camera and take pictures.
Perfect. That'll be fun.
So anyway, this has been truly enjoyable. I really appreciate your articulateness, if that is the word, about the process, about what it's like to be a performer. It's more rare. Well, maybe not for you, but it's more rare than you think, at least from where I sit. That a lot of times opera or artists just say, well, hey, take a look, they don't have much to say about the art that goes in,
yeah, and I think that's an important thing to always remember, and something that I try to stress to everybody is that when you see these productions, and not just opera, not just musical theater, but just regular theater, when you see a process, when you're sitting in that seat at a theater and you see what's going on stage, know that it took a village to put on that production. And yes, the spotlight is shining on the leading soprano, but there's a whole bunch of people who have put that together, and so much money and finance and hard work that has gone into that production to make that one moment look brilliant. And that's the magic of art. That's the magic of collaborative art. And that's something in a world that I absolutely love being a part of, and being a part of this artistic universe.
By way of wrapping it up, do you have with all these characters, do you have a favorite one?
Favorite role? That's actually a really great question, and it's kind of like choosing your favorite child. I guess if you're a parent, I like them for different reasons, and I would say that there's a role of the Bay of Algiers from an opera by Rossini called L'Italiana in Algeri, the woman from Algeria. And the role is Mustafa. He's a comic character, and he's the leading bass. So it's that 5% of the time where I get to be a lead. Great aria and great ensembles, and I would say that's my most fun overall.
So anyway, it looks like we're coming toward the end of the hour. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Fun.
This was fascinating.
Wow.
It really
so much.
And we have to remember there is great talent in this area, in the Stanislaus County area. I mean, I think that's important for us to remember. So, the community needs to remember that, we're no slouches when it comes to putting out artists and creative minds.
Right. And I'm going to take great pride in claiming you as a member of this community, because I've been looking into it. And, in addition to you, there's been dozens of people who have come from our small community and gone on to prominence.
Absolutely.
In various fields.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I will see you on the 19th.
Very good. Looking forward to that.
Okay. So goodbye for now.
Bye. Thanks again, Nathan.
Thank